Good morning, Mr. Anthony. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right, doing all right.
That's awesome. Um, I know we were planning to do a follow up from the last podcast when you shared a lot of interesting information about the redlining and how what took place then has these continue to have residual effects on us now regarding the redlining and all the policies that went into the freeway building and how it destroyed our community. But there was a conversation you was having with me earlier about a conversation you had with a brother and sister yesterday, and I wanted you to talk more about that because it sounded very interesting, and I think your listeners will appreciate uh, the dialogue that took place. So, if you will,
Well,
introduce the conversation.
they were pretty much having the conversation about black men and women not getting married, and uh, pretty much about that conversation. And I was telling them that basically as a joke first, I said, well, I love women, so I don't want to get no beef with women. I ain't into
Right,
the red pill, blue pill, or with women type situation, right?
right,
But so but you gotta understand that was by design. And she said, by design. I said, yeah. I said, systematic racism. She was like, you can't blame racism for black women not getting married. I said, yeah, I can say racism is a major reason why 1 in 4 black women are being married. And I say that because if you look in the past, most of us, our grandparents had a high marriage rate. The black community had a very high marriage rate. We was even jumping the brooms in slavery, right? So
right,
that means we believe strongly in the institution of marriage. Something created that division, right?
right,
So I said, now think about this. You looking for a man for provision. But we got to think all throughout the 70s and the 80s, because the civil rights movement was ending in the 68, black men was paid substantially less than white men, right?
right,
So, and they didn't have like a guaranteed or permanent employment. So this didn't allow them the stability to provide for a family in such a way. So this required women to go to black women to go to the government for a lot of assistance. Them government programs incentivize the woman based on the man not being there.
oh,
You
okay,
see?
right,
So you was rewarded, but he couldn't be there. Now they did this. This was a government policy. It's national, but they didn't implement it or enforce it with the white people. They was in our community, in our inner city Section 8 housing, searching through people's stuff, looking to see if the man had items there. You see?
right,
So therefore, that made the men not have legal standing.
right,
That made black men squatters, basically.
wow,
So you don't have a right to even be there to be around your children. You lottery. So it shifted the balance of power in the black household
how so?
because the black man, if he had no legal standing, anytime he did whatever she did not like, right, then
Right,
she could demand him to leave.
right,
And she was also joining on to the women's suffrage movement, right? Fighting for women's liberation because of the way white men treat white women, which is not true within the black community. We was never in a position to oppress our women. We was never in a position to deny our women the right to vote, right?
right.
So they joined on to the women's suffrage and then they embraced what women go through with men and implemented that to us. But the difference is they had leverage over us as black men.
Oh, so the black women at the time, who was convinced by the white women to join this movement because under the guise that this is about all women, not us, pretending it's about we're sharing this plight across the board with all women. It's just we need your power and we need your support to help us argue and fight against our oppression from our own men. And
Correct.
then when, of course, we both know that once they achieve their goals, they pretty much discarded
The black woman.
supporting the black woman and any support that black women needed from those same white women
Right.
that they supported.
And it's clear like the black women, the white women used the black women part of the women's suffrage. The first time the white women got the right to vote, they didn't allow the black women to vote, right?
Right,
And they abandoned the white women, abandoned them, and allowed them to vote. right?
Right.
But you taking on a narrative that you being oppressed by your man as black women, and you're not. Your man has never economically oppressed you. Your man has never paid you less than he paid other people.
Right.
These things doesn't exist, right?
Right.
So this black man masculinity of dominating over black women, right, was all facade. But black
Right.
women had that leverage because they got that assistance, that same government assistance that indebted that black man.
How so?
Because when she get that government assistance, he's owed child support, right? And he has the instability of these jobs. Therefore, what they're doing, they're taking his license away. He's subject to go to jail for debts that he can't even enjoy in.
Wow.
He's receiving the debt for housing and things that he can't even protect, and he don't even have a right to be there. But he's being indebted for it. He's being denied opportunities. He's having privileges taken for him for a debt that he can't even benefit from.
Wow. And that's the conversation that you was engaging a brother and a sister yesterday while engaging in your entrepreneurial
Right.
thing.
Correct.
And that is what you was explaining to them as well.
Yes. So that's what I was getting them to understand is that the imbalance was created by the government, and that's why I'm such a strong proponent of black men being economically independent, working together and collectively building our own is because they economically castrate you, that demasculates you as a person, not only
Right.
just in the eyes of the rest of the world, but in the eyes of your own women.
Right. And we've known far too often that a lot of one of the biggest statistics that they like to throw out, even we've thrown it out, is about single parent household. And what that actually means is single mother parent
Right.
households where the mother, like in Tupac's song "Keep Your Head Up," she playing daddy and pappy. She playing mama and pappy.
Right. Because the truth is that regardless of what we say, a black woman does have bailouts. She does have programs to go to where that black man doesn't, right?
Can you name a couple of them?
Well, any like welfare, any type of the stamps for the children, the government assistance, the housing assistance, they have programs to assist mothers, right?
Right.
But now you put that father name on that, he got a debt occurring in that.
Right. And
You
we
see,
both know lots of individuals that have gone and gotten incarcerated because they owe child support and then the arrears from that, which is nothing but interest on top of missed payments that they were either aware or wasn't aware that they were required to make.
I wish I could remember the brother name. I was at PPI, Plastic Parts Incorporated. Brother was a forklifter. Took 2 years off because his mother was dying. Well, 18 months. Didn't pay child support. He back working, paying his child support. They locked him up, stopped him from working at PPI. This is about 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Fact, true story. Locked him up for the missed child support, the back child support, even though he was up to date on child support the last year.
Wow.
So causing him to go further in the current child support debt.
Wow. And yet, when you try to point things like this out to, and unfortunately, we try to point things out like this to some of our brothers and sisters who might not be aware of how the system is still implementing cause and effects that negatively affect their ability to move forward, to remain a unit, to have an attitude and an ideology of being together and of sharing the responsibilities and wanting to be with each other because of the pernicious system whether it's CPS or child support, which is all connected and related. Because you, as you pointed out, the quote unquote uh, aid to families of dependent children (AFDC), which is what it was originally called and is still called that. They incentivize women to reject the male being in the household because they feared losing the benefits. They didn't fear losing the benefits because they simply was told that they can be taken from them if the man was present. They were specifically ordered not to have him present.
And the objective is to penalize you for having children.
Wow.
That's the objective. See, and then we have to understand as black people that when you look at the civil rights movement, right, it was
Right.
young people up front, right,
Right.
mostly, right. But the reason why they was able to be up front is because they had a family base to support them.
Right.
So the father, he might not have been out there because he didn't have to risk the job, right?
Right.
So he didn't because they won't take his job. He out there, right?
Right.
So he don't have to go out there because his son out front, but he gonna finance. He gonna support his son.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So the
Right.
key was to destroy that family base and to understand that wealth is built off a family base,
Right.
right? So you destroy that process, then you destroy any chance of a black community. So you have to understand, and once you destroy the family base, you have no community.
Pretty much, because the one thing about us that we are notorious for, and even now we're celebrated for, but it's only whispers on the walls here and there, is that it takes a village to raise a child. That's an adage that comes from us and because of us. And when I was growing up, specifically, I definitely remember being on the block. And as an example, if Miss Alice down the street caught you doing something, she had a right to tax that behind. And then when she brought you home, the mother would be like, no, no, don't leave. And she taxed it again and said, next time she tell you to do something, do it.
Well, at that time, wasn't nobody really worried about people harming their children like that because they had fathers at home,
Right.
right?
But we also
People,
still, like I said, we
we
also
was
still
a
had the
community,
community.
but I'm saying that's why you
We
could
all
be
took
it.
care of each
That's
other.
why you could be a community because there's fathers there, right? When you have fathers there, you have discipline. So you can't be a community without discipline.
Right.
The young males need discipline. A bunch of women can't control a bunch of young men.
Now
They're
that
gonna
goes,
they're
you're
gonna get
right.
to a certain point where they can't control them. It's gonna take men to come and put them in line because they have misdirection. They don't know how to be a man, and that is frustrating to them at the time.
Right.
So you're gonna act out in ways, that probably be destructive, you know.
Right.
So that's the situation we deal with when they separate the black man and the black woman,
Right. Because
right?
that yin and yang balance. You got the mother with the nurturing and the father that shows as an example of what things that you are supposed to do as a man and what things you're not supposed to do. And then the mother adds the sprinkles to it about being forthright and thoughtful and intelligent, and they balance each other out. So it's
Correct.
well rounded,
Right.
boys and girls.
And then when you align the women in a lot of ways, even though they pay black women less, right? They create more opportunities for women because it's as far as dealing with racism, it's less threatening dealing with a black woman than a black man. See, the concept
Right.
that this black woman have this attitude and she snap, she only do that to black men. She only do that at home. She go to work for 10, 15 years. She ain't snapping nothing like that at work.
Right. Because you wouldn't have no job for very long.
You see what I'm saying? So
Right.
this only because they have the leverage on black men. So they're able to take out their aggression from dealing in the workplace with them on us the same way that you find abusive black men who might work somewhere that's racist, come home and abuse their woman.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, because that was a very that was a prominent issue that was being discussed and debated um, throughout the 40s, 50s, 60s going forward. And as you said, around the 70s and 80s, it flipped. And it was the other way around because now black women was incentivized and was encouraged to understand and believe, okay, now you ain't got to worry about this because we got these programs, but in order for you to qualify and get this extra assistance, you got to get rid of him. So you ain't got to worry about him putting his hands on you or getting mad at you or yelling at you. And if he does, Call us,
And
and
even if
we'll deal with it.
you sneaking him in and out, right?
Mm-hmm.
She still has a lower level of respect for him when he got to
Right.
hide when this white woman come over. You see what I'm saying? So
Right.
it's a lower level. It's a lower level of respect that's there now.
Right.
You see that
Right.
that's why I'm so focused on black men, especially, you know, pulling together and building their resources because they've been given certain opportunities because they're considered less threatening, right? So
Right.
therefore they got, you know, and then we get in trouble legally early as youth because a lot of economic conditions as children we had to step out there. So all this is aiding to the separation of black man and woman and what that is aiding to is the lack of ability to build any wealth.
Okay. And that was the same thing you was explaining to their brother and sister when when the issue came up and they was debating the relevance. And I believe you said at one point the sister was like, why do you say everything is racism? Well, how has racism got anything to do with that? But of course, when you broke it down, it's
Yeah.
easy to see how something that actually was instrumental in helping bring about the change in the way you see things and how you're taught to look at things actually was something that was done a long time ago. Going back to the adage, you can't see the forest for the trees. You can't believe racism was responsible for the condition that you find yourself in because, one, you can't really see racism. You know, you see instances and examples of it, but it has no face like you and I, you know. And two, at the same time, because it's become such a uncomfortable talking point, we were also conditioned collectively to believe and defend racism being perpetuated against us by saying, no, everything ain't racism. So we do it just to ourselves and we do this to ourselves and our own people did this. Okay, you was told to say that.
Mm-hmm.
That because if you're focused on this, if you focus on turning the anger and the angst inward, then you're not going to be paying attention no more to the fact that it actually came outside of you.
I tell people this: if you have a 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to have to teach the 6-year-old how to get the cereal once the 8-year-old know. 6-year-old just gonna follow the 8-year-old. He gonna see the 8-year-old climb, put the chair up, climb up on the chair, grab the cereal out the bowl,
Right.
right? And he gonna do the same thing.
Right.
Eventually, the 4-year-old gonna follow up.
Right.
When he turns 5 or 6, he gonna do the exact same thing,
Right.
right? So when you being trained something, you know, from person to person,
Right.
right? You're not
Right.
going. You just know this is the process.
Right. You have no reason to challenge it because it's
That's
become a normalized behavior and a normalized processing.
so my stepfather. He said my pops. He said this. He said I want you to discuss on your video how you think. I was like I can't explain how I think. I said okay. This the best way I could say it. I believe in cause and effect, right?
Right.
So whenever I look at a situation, right,
Right.
I have to look at this the effect of something. So I look at indications of that
What
caused it,
caused it?
right? So
Right.
I trace my situations backwards, outwards, like, you
Right.
know, and that's the simplest way he want me to
Right.
explain how I think on my podcast.
Right.
But that's the simplest
And
way I
that's
can
not
try to
actually
explain.
that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing because that goes back to what we talked about when we introduced you. Your growth. You knew what you were doing at one point, and people couldn't understand when you came home why your way of thinking was different, why your attitude was different, your passion, your tenacity, your belief in about, being forward and being the male and being the alpha male about doing these things and these responsibilities and so forth. It was just you changed it from a criminal mind state to a non-criminal mind state to an entrepreneurial mind state, and it was difficult for people to accept that about you because when you left, this is who they knew you to be, even though that had already been inside you. It's just, as they used to say, the sleeping giant was awakened, and
And
that was a desire you had to wake it up.
and I tell everybody this. That was based off what I seen grown men around me doing.
Right.
That's why I tell everybody this, that when you ask children what they want to be, they have to be exposed to it.
Right.
And so for you taking a lot of black men out their community, taking their father, so you gotta understand, especially taking the father away from a boy, right? Because he got characteristics similar to that father,
Right.
right? He got ways and attitudes like that father, right?
Right.
So he's looking at his roadmap of his character. He can decide which parts of those characters he like and don't like, right?
Right.
About it, and he wants to do different, right? Because he see himself in his father.
Right.
So that's the real dangerous part about taking or keeping a father away from his son, right? And
Right.
it's lots to do with incarceration because study shows that black men spend more time with their children than any other race of people. This was released on the World News too about 4 or 5 months ago. A study done.
And actually, that's been consistently reported, expounded upon, and even documented in writing in movies over the last easily 50 years.
But economic castration limits our power over our
Right.
children. Our ability to create opportunities for our children limits our ability to guide our sons, right? It's difficult for them to look up to you when you can't present or create opportunities for them, right?
Right.
As a man, right? So that's part of that issue, even though, and then the in and out incarceration
Right.
situation, even though they love their daddy, he spent time with him, that lifestyle that they see is hard to conceal with, with who my leader
Right.
should be. So it's kind of
Right.
hard to fully follow, right?
Right.
So we got to understand these negative things, all these things have a continuous negative effect on our community.
Right.
So we have to learn how this system affects us. We have to pull as much dependency away from this system as we can for ourselves,
Right.
right? Because they're going to manipulate it to their advantage,
Right.
right? And they do it with every shape and form,
Right.
right? And I believe the most powerful weapon they've done was that system of separating black man and woman.
Destroying the black family.
That's the most powerful weapon that they have, and it's the most effective for them because without that family structure, there's no wealth building. You're dividing your resources. You paying rent here, she paying rent here.
Right.
You driving over here to get them, pick them up. You're dividing your resources.
Right.
You
And
know,
also your energy is divided, your way of looking at things, you're more frustrated, so it's harder to come to terms when you're frustrated, and then your partner's frustrated, and then sometimes you can't articulate it or you fear articulating it because it might come out the wrong way, which actually causes more of a divide as opposed to
and
bringing y'all
right,
closer.
you lose,
Yeah.
and you leaving a gap for children to be able to manipulate, right? Because there's
Right.
no matter how much co-parent you think you're doing, if you're in different places, the children's going to figure out how to benefit off of that.
I can attest to that with my grandchildren because
So,
I watched that and I had to be reminded that that was why that was possible. And I'm
yeah.
grateful to my wife for doing that. So, yeah, I definitely can attest to that from personal
It's
experience.
difficult to lay down discipline policies and enforce them if the other person not strongly about the same thing, and they go there,
Right,
them they're not enforced, right? But if you're in a household, you a unit force, then y'all sharing the same principles, right? Then y'all
right,
instilling those principles consistently, right?
right,
On your child. It's coming from both ends.
right. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because it reminds me of the movie Boys in the Hood when Trey, mother, took him to his father Furious and he started implementing, he started laying down certain things that he wanted Trey to learn as a young boy that's going to be growing up into a young man. And one of the things that she says, well, you know, I can help him learn and grow into a boy, but I can't teach him how to be a man. And the thing is, based upon what you said, I wanted to ask you if the situation was like that, do you believe similar to how the movie portrayed it that it's possible for that child, if the father is available, even though they're in a different location, to get those uh, nuggets, those manhood nuggets, way things that is required of a young boy growing into a manhood, so he can learn from a father who is present, even though he don't live with the mother.
It's crazy you bring that movie up out of all, because that's actually what made me study screenwriting, right? John Singleton, right?
Right,
Uh, I speak about a lot of movies negatively portraying black people, right?
right,
That brother had a message in that movie,
right,
serious message, right?
right,
And I had talked about how colors promoted Bloods and Crips, right? He went outside his way. There was a war between the Bloods and Crips in the movie, but he went out his way not to glorify that.
yeah, I remember that. I mean, there was sprinkles in it
It
because
was sprinkles.
because
He
he
was
kept it
keeping it
real
honest with what was going
about
on,
what was going
but you
on in
didn't
the
see they
community.
was overly dressed in red. You might
Right,
have seen the Bulls
he didn't
hat. He
exaggerate
didn't. You're right. He
the
didn't
portrayal of that
exaggerate the
aspect
gang
of it like in the
violence.
movie
What he
Colors.
focused more on was the fact that the mother chose children. One mother chose children based off their father, who she
Right,
favored, right? And he showed what was the ideal situation if the mother and father wasn't together. Because the mother is the first nurturer.
right,
So the mother had him the initial stage,
right,
right? And then he showed the father had to step in, provide the discipline, and teach him to be a man
and the
and
direction.
to walk and to make certain decisions. So he
Right,
didn't make the decisions that his friends made because he had guidance.
right.
You
Good
see what I'm
point.
saying? So that was the significance of that movie, and the significance and why Ricky made it. It was we were trying to make it out that way separate, because the mother always instilled that love on him.
Right,
That's why he didn't have that need to join gangs.
like Doughboy's
Like
character.
Doughboy had the need to join the gang because he didn't feel
He
the
was rejected,
love
right? Because he was
from his
rejected
mother,
by the
right?
mother.
That's why that was a deep movie,
Right,
serious message in there, right?
right,
And so that's why we got to be careful what we feed ourselves, right? And we got to be
right,
careful who produce, what movies we promote, and stuff like that, right?
right,
Because a lot of black film producers and stuff write a lot of stuff that are degrading towards black people.
right. Similar to the music that's being promoted and pushed.
Correct. John Singleton, that's a different story.
Right.
If you look at all his movies, you can see the difference as far as other movies, as far as the
Right.
black community.
Yeah, pretty much all his movies, higher learning, poetic justice. Yeah,
Yeah,
he always made sure that the most prominent aspect of all his movies was that this is the message. The message about black unity, black togetherness, searching for uh, the strength in one another and how to learn to reconnect with one another, and at the same time, despite having to fight against racist practices and whatnot, showing that black people not only can overcome that and and still manage to persevere despite it, even while dealing with it. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes
yeah.
a
So
lot of
that's
sense.
why I said. So that was and that's the ideal situation what Styles did as far as taking over the child. But the more ideal situation is the mother and father together, poor
Right,
resources. And another thing you would like to notice about the movie is the mother was progressing, excelling.
right,
The brother, to gain his independence, he was an entrepreneur. What
right,
he did was he was a mortgage lender.
right,
So that's why he talked about the gentrification.
right.
Even then,
Exactly.
he talked about this 92, 91. He was talking about gentrification.
Even then, yeah, and he pointed it out to, as a matter of fact, he held court with the gang members,
Right. With the men's.
with the
Right.
men who
Right.
were portrayed as the gang members.
And another reason why Ricky was like he was is because he got the tutelage of Trey's father.
Right.
Notice he ain't that the first time he talked. He said your father's like Malcolm,
Farrakhan. Right,
Farrakhan,
right, right,
right?
right.
So he's been getting the teachings
From him for
from the
quite
father.
some time.
And if you notice when he first came, the kids already knew him anyway.
Right, because he lived across the
He was
street
already
from
talking to the
Doughboy
kids
and
when
Ricky's mom.
right.
Right,
So he was already had relationships with the youth in the neighborhood.
right,
That's the difference of men being involved. And he showed it on many ways, especially an educated man.
right.
right? And the difference of and like I said, what I believe what he was trying to show also is what our system created with class gaps within the same family, right?
Right.
Because you see how he was living and you see in her house.
Right.
Now he was an entrepreneur, she was an executive.
Right.
She lived better as an executive than he did as an entrepreneur.
At the same time, he worked for himself and
Right.
she worked for somebody.
Right. So, but they were showing you classism,
Comparing and contrasting.
and that's the and that's that with them feeling non-threatened by black women, excelling them on the
As
corporate level
opposed to a
as
black
opposed to the
man.
black man.
Right. Ah, good point. Good point.
So that was just a deep. That's a deep movie.
Right.
I plan to start doing movie reviews eventually. Somebody told me I should do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually said the same thing myself because
Yeah.
the perspective you bring to them, it points out things, as I've said before, that it points out things that a great many people who watch them, they're entertained by what they see, and then there's some of us that actually can see those little nuggets of information, useful information, enlightening information. And I've listened to you do reviews about movies that I've seen where I pointed things out to you that I've seen, and then you pointed things out that I actually didn't see until I thought about it and or rewatched it and it was like, I'll be damned. That was there, and I even missed that. So yeah, I think you'd be excellent at that. Just like I believe, without question, you're gonna be excellent with your podcast. And again, I appreciate that you let me talk to you, interview you, because it gives a chance to show people again the very thing you talk about, you showcase all the time. You still an entrepreneur. You're a young black man who started off walking down the wrong path and took stock of that after you put yourself in the position that you did and end up being incarcerated and said, okay, like you said, cause and effect. Okay, I know what the effect, I know how I got here. But what really got me here? What else got me here besides the obvious part?
And the truth is, the criminal path is the least resistant in our community. That's the facts.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like you know me, I've said it tons of times. Unfortunately, human beings are like electricity. They take the path of least resistance because it's easier.
And the trick too is that, America has the ability to make anything you do illegal.
Mm. Speak on that.
Whether
Speak on that.
that's the same. That's how marijuana became illegal. They same black people do it. They follow your habits. When they say 26 grams is illegal, you got high CDLs. That was based off something you was doing.
Wow.
It wasn't. It was. There was no purpose for that before.
But I recall you having the same conversation, but you went deeper into the history of it. Why don't you share that with your listeners?
What's that?
When you talked about, I recall a couple of conversations you had with me regarding how going back to when it was hemp.
Yeah. Well, it like I said, the thing with marijuana, like it never. It's a thing. Originally, that they only made marijuana illegal to target blacks. Originally, the DuPont family said, okay, we're going to make it illegal because we want to protect our wealth. They thought you can use hemp to make paper. And the DuPont family bought a forest. So you locking people up to protect a group of wealthy people, right?
Right.
So nothing medical, nothing went wrong with it. It's just they was protecting DuPont family wealth. This is a fact. This is 1872 or something they went and did this, right? So this is a fact. This is the first time the Congress ever made hemp or marijuana ever illegal, right? So then, second, they didn't raise it up to Nixon. They started catching the Latinos and the black for marijuana. Then they scheduled it a Class A drug over heroin, right? Wow. So you got to understand now, the government cannot run no tests on marijuana, painkilling, or municipal use, right? They cannot fund nothing from the government because it's labeled higher than heroin, but they funded programs to study to send the pain relief off of opiates.
Wow.
So now they create opiates, right? As your pain release, which is the real gateway drug, not marijuana, right? Because most people start off with Vicodins, pain pills,
Right.
oxycontins, and then they get off into heroin. So the real gateway here is the heroin, right? But
Right.
they made marijuana higher schedule level than heroin, and you have large amounts of heroin overdose that increase every year over the last 2 decades, and you have zero overdose for marijuana.
Right. And then because they put it out there and tricked everybody into believing that this is bad
Mm-hmm.
when there was nothing really bad
Nothing
about it.
bad
And
about it.
then
Nixon did that.
Nixon was very, very instrumental in that because his his at his top aide, John Elixir, I can't recall how to properly spell his name, but they've been showing it on YouTube, and TikTok's become a favorite. I'll admit it's a favorite of mine. They constantly keep putting that out there when he said, you know, we know what to do with the news. We know what to do. We're gonna we're gonna use marijuana with the hippies
Mm-hmm.
and what was
Well,
it?
they only went for the hippies because they was against the war at the
Right,
time.
the
So they used
marijuana. They
the
said the
yeah,
marijuana with the
yeah,
hippies
with the
and the
hippies and the
heroin with
blacks.
the blacks, and then we're gonna demonize them on the nightly news every
Yeah.
night. That this is the reason why all of this is taking place. And he said, "Do we know we were lying? Yeah,
And then you got to realize this, and anybody can look this up. The biggest opiate producer is Johnson and Johnson in the world, American company,
wow,
right?
didn't know that.
Biggest opiate producer. They settled a $1.5 billion debt for the opiate crisis.
Wow,
Yeah, no jail time though.
of
Teamed
course,
up with Eli Lilly, the biggest pill manufacturer. They called them. We got this opiates. We need you to widen the use of it. This is a fact. Got a whole video on my YouTube page about it, right? I say white people are responsible for the opiate epidemic, right?
right,
They've always have. They even went through how they ended up with Hong Kong. They went to war with China. They always been heroin addicts, but they blame it on black people. They went to war with China because they wanted to sell heroin to China. China said no. They went to war, beat China, took Hong Kong. It's called the opiate wars. Look it up. They always been drug dealers. Blame it on you though. This is a fact. That's how they took on Hong Kong.
wow,
Yes. So now you understand. So Johnson Johnson, biggest opiate manufacturer, right? They call Eli Lilly the biggest pill seller.
right.
Team together and they create OxyContin, Percocets,
Whoa,
right? And then you can see the increase with prescriptions use, right?
right,
With overdose. This is why you have more white people on drugs than blacks because it's a goal to rob you out of your health insurance.
right.
So when they done with you off your health insurance, after they sell all the drugs to you, they can rob you out all your health insurance. Then they dump you off your health insurance. Then they send you to the street. Then you locking up the blacks for supplying a habit that you created.
Wow.
This is a fact.
Right.
That's why I say if you're gonna put the wall up, what you trying to keep the dope in?
Yeah.
If Johnson's the biggest opiate maker, so you're trying to keep the wall
And that's an
in.
American company.
American company.
Ain't got nothing to do with no
Right.
Mexicans, no Chinese, nobody.
Right.
That's an American
Not
company.
only that, they went and bribed doctors, paid them to do speaking engagements if they subscribed you to more opiates for simple accidents, simple pains. They bribed doctors, your trusted doctors. Now you looking at black people, these people went and bribed your doctor, your trusted doctor, in order to hook you on to opiates. This is a fact. They bribed them, paid them $200,000, $300,000 for speaking engagements that they didn't even have to attend because they got so many people new subscribed to these drugs.
Wow. And that makes sense. And then to the point, I had an accident at one point, and uh, I believe it's oxycodone that you're talking about, and oxycontin is a derivative.
Mm-hmm.
They prescribed me the oxy because it was for an automobile accident, and I'll never forget. I asked for they. It was the first time I had ever been prescribed that. The first time, because I normally don't go to doctors anyway.
Right.
But it was ironic that I got prescribed that because the insurance was through my company, the company I work for. Let me correct myself. And the nurse originally prescribed it,
Mm-hmm.
5 milligrams, something to that effect. And then I ran out because it was only like 10, 15 pills. you know. And I took the pills as prescribed, as she gave them to me, ordered them, prescribed them. When I went back to ask for some more, she not only told me no, but then wrote in my file for the insurance company that she thought I was faking.
Yeah, yeah, they do that with blacks
Yeah,
real
with blacks,
fast. They cut you off fast.
and and I. It is ironic that you said that because I thought about it
One
because I
time racism benefits us.
yeah, and going back to that because they say people say, well, racism, you're always saying it's always about racism. It's always about racism. Don't have to. Sure, it's the
Yeah,
foundation
yeah.
because I speak from personal experience. Anytime I offer something, if I didn't personally experience it, I don't speak on it at all. That's
See,
because
the
of the
thing was, they were
familiarity and
automatically gonna
whatnot.
say that they should have knew you was tracing drugs. You was black. You came in here. They should knew you was tracing drugs. That white people, they can go doctor to doctor, doctor to
Yes,
doctor,
they can.
and get it for a long period of time,
Right,
right? And then they finally then ran out all the insurance money. Then insurance kick them off, right?
right,
Then that's when they on the streets trying to buy some pills, right?
right,
And that's when they locking the brothers up. And not only that, now that they legalized the marijuana, who got the dispensaries? White people, right? This is what I'm saying. You still under Jim Crow. Stop
right,
acting like you're not. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can act it all you want,
right,
right? Alcohol, 90,000 deaths. Wisconsin, 17th in the country in building in dispensaries, right?
right,
It's 5 drunk drivings, right? Before it's a felony. 2
right.
marijuana convictions, no matter how amount it is, 2 marijuana possessions is a felony,
Wow.
right? Whatever I see blacks do, I can target. And then I selectively prosecute blacks anyway. Right?
Right,
Trump ain't going to jail for tax evasion. Ronald Isley did. Wesley Snipes did. You going.
yeah, you going.
You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
it's a selective prosecution we got to deal with,
right,
you know? So that's what black people got to understand. You still, your Jim Crow ain't went nowhere.
right.
But it ain't going to go nowhere until you strong enough to demand it. You
True.
you don't have no rights that you're not strong enough to enforce.
No, you don't.
I've been incarcerated. If you can't protect it, somebody gonna take it.
Again, true. Again, true.
Just
Yeah,
just the fact. You see what I'm
right,
saying? So that and that's what countries. Britain went in Australia. They were strong enough military wise to come and take it. They went in
right,
America. They were strong enough military wise to come and take it.
right,
That's how they operate.
right,
They operate on strength, right? Dividing black man and black woman make us weak.
right. And there's been no concerted effort to do that with other cultures and quote unquote the races and ethnicities of other cultures. Not to say that there hasn't been examples of it, not to say that they hadn't attempted this. It's just the efforts has never been
It hasn't
as
been
egregious.
consistent.
Right, it has never been as egregious and consistent as it has been with us.
When they first let Chinese come over, they couldn't bring. They let them come over to help build the railroads. They
Mhm.
couldn't. They couldn't bring women
Right,
because they ain't want them settling in.
right,
Right. But we was already here, so that didn't make them for us. They just systematically said we got to destroy this process of black family and black unity in order to take over this land. That's how it was with us.
right,
So yeah, it's never. And then you got to understand if they built their power off white supremacy, we on the total opposite end of the spectrum,
right,
right? So the way they look at it, the value decreases as they go down,
right,
right?
right,
For white supremacy to be what it is, blacks got to be at the bottom. If white at the top, then black got to be at the bottom.
right. Yeah, makes sense.
So it's
Yeah,
it's a matter of what you decide. It's a matter of what you
right,
decide, right?
right,
And if you decide not to build black families, right,
right,
then you decide not to leave a structure, not to leave no wealth, not to leave a concept of unity. Then you decide to leave us at the bottom.
right. And specifically, more to your passion, do you think that's the most significant aspect of why it's Milwaukee, Wisconsin is so hard for black people?
Yeah, I think that's one of the main problems that the marriage, yeah, the black man and woman, yeah, and I know me being single, but being a black man and being an entrepreneur, yeah, if I would have had that support of a strong black woman and we'd been building together, oh yeah, I'd have been a lot farther. You know what I'm saying? I've been
Right,
a lot. You waste a lot of time as a man dealing with women, and
right,
they're not,
right. Well,
if they're
especially when
not
you're trying to
helpmate,
find,
right?
you're hopeful because you don't give up, and they speak a good game, and that's not to say anything bad
Right.
about women. It's just a lot of us don't know, and I say us collectively, black men and black women. A lot of us is not aware that the conditioning, the self-defeating, and the the self hatred and the lack of respect of and for self is so deeply ingrained that we don't realize, and that divisiveness in attitude and perspective and ideologies is so ingrained in us that we don't realize. Like you said, you deal with a lot of different black women that this is what I'm trying to do, this is this, that, another. And I don't I love my women, I love my sisters, however, I don't want a black woman. I want a sister. I want somebody that's going to be on the same page that I'm on, because I'm trying to build something. I want to do great things for us, and
They
I
looking
people.
at a black man through the lens of a white woman.
Yeah,
See, that's the issue. They looking at a black man through
yeah,
the lens of a white woman.
right,
Cause they expect they not looking at what we up against as black men no more because it's a spiritual disconnect now, right?
right,
So and then what happened is that they done dealt with men who done gave up, that they don't know the difference when they see another type of man because they don't know how to use judgment no more,
right,
right? We're not thinking and using judgment. Tell women all the time, well, when you met him, y'all spent all this time together. He wasn't making no money. So you had to realize at one time that if you had a baby, y'all wasn't gonna be able to take care of it.
good point.
But you wasn't using judgment.
Right, you was going off your emotions,
Right. You see what I'm saying? So,
and they weren't even in order.
right. So a lot of times you dealing with people who've had bad judgment and made a lot of bad decisions
Right,
and don't know how to decipher between one person and the next. And they see us as a collective too,
right,
as the image that white people gave them. They either this, they losers, or I need you to be this, make this 100,000
right,
rich is all a fallacy. You know,
right,
5% of the population of males make 100,000 a year.
right,
You know what I'm saying? But every time you turn around, is what I'm saying. I want a man to make 6 figures. You going for the 5%? So all 95% of y'all going for 5% of the man?
right. That's
That's the
one of the
cap.
conversations me and you had a couple of days ago about Kevin Samuels, and
Yeah.
why there were so many of them that was upset with him, because that's basically what he was pointing out. Because
But
I had heard of the brother, and after watching a couple of his podcasts, I was like, oh, okay, well,
the part
what
that
you just said.
the part that they always miss is that your mother, your grandmother, your grandfather, they built it together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what y'all thinking. They didn't come together. One head this, one head that. That house, they built it together. A lot of times with their hands, on their hands and knees, nailed a
Right,
hammer.
right,
You see what I'm saying? They both went out and had to go get it. Came home, she might have made the clothes, bought the clothes and made the clothes. All that they built together with the same mind state,
right,
clear of their conditions. None of this fairy tale living. That's another thing they use to get us separated. None
right,
of this fairy tale living. They was very clear about their condition and the situation of their men,
right,
right? And what they was trying to do is fill in the blanks for them men.
right,
See, and that's what is lacking. That collective.
right.
This is why you get divorced so fast, because y'all have never learned to function as a unit and learn to be codependent and progress collectively.
Right.
This is just something that black people have not learned to do yet because we've been taught every man for itself, and that occurs with the dividing of a black family. If you don't come from a family, what gonna give you the concept of unity?
Right. Because there's countless examples. It's not a very large number, but it is a significant number of old school husband and wife teams that have been together 30, 40, 50 years. And I used to research that, and they would ask the woman, well, they always go to this because try to sow the seeds of negativity and division. Well, has he ever cheated on you? There's a possibility he can, but that ain't got nothing to do with what we was talking about doing. Because I understand the circumstances of the situation of this, that, and other. Or they ask the male, and it's mostly they always ask the woman. But those old school women always gave the point blank honest answer. I understood what we was dealing with. I understand he gonna be a man. It's part of a man's nature. Do I agree with it? No. But do I pretend that I don't know that's a part of a man's nature? Not at all. The most important thing is he knew where he was supposed to be when he was supposed to be there. And he was always there, regardless of all the other extra stuff he did. That's why we got 40 years. That's why we got 45 years. That's why we got 55 years. Because our focus wasn't on these these inconsequential things that was we were told and misled to believe that are supposed to be consequential. No, we're trying to build some stuff. There's going to be a slip here and there. He may slip, I may slip. What we don't slip on is the focus that to get to here, we still need to be focused on going in this direction and doing the things respective of our roles individually and as this collective.
But that was the trick with allowing the black woman in corporate America and keeping the black man out, right?
I
It was
recall that.
it was to divide that interest, right?
Right.
So we got different goals. I wake up in the morning, I go to work for 10 hours, you go to work for 10 hours. That's not even a collective. We just come home and we split the bills. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? So there's no real collective investment. You see what I'm saying? Like in my situation, if I when I'm dealing with somebody, your job is secondary, the relationship is first, right? That's
Right.
only a process. You see, you
Right.
going to get that because we got a collective plan of what we building collectively, right?
Right.
That's only a part of this. You know I don't want nobody to be long term building for nobody else. In my
Right.
situation, we long term building for us. They
Right.
just a stepping stone with that.
Right.
We take that, we bring that back to this, and we do this. Your
Right.
talent is this, my talent is this. You add your talent to this, I add mine to this.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Now, what's your goal? This your dream. That's what you want to see. Okay, my goal is I can add this to this. You can add that to that. Boom, this the plan. Let's make this happen.
Right.
That's how we
You
supposed to
build.
be functioning and building,
Right.
right? But we're taught to be separate. She's taught to have her career. He's taught to have his career.
And then y'all come together. For what?
Because what's important to her is her career.
Exactly.
What's important to you is your career.
Right.
And you're not gonna put nothing for your career. She's not gonna put nothing for her career.
So there's already a divide before you even come together.
See, our career is what we building together.
Right.
That's the priority.
Right.
What we gonna leave, our foundation.
Right.
That's what we here for.
Right. Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's secondary. That's just a tool.
Right.
Use that tool
For what it is.
and we're gonna move from that because we
Right.
building us. And they away from that mentality. They got us away from that mentality.
Right.
Right? Because they got the woman looking at the man as he a burden.
Right.
Right? So the women ain't
Or
seeing
a sugar daddy.
right. Or the women ain't seeing, she ain't seeing, okay, well, white folks allow me this access to this career, allow me access to this capital. He can build, huh? Okay, well, you gonna build such and such, and then you know what I'm saying. I'm gonna take my capital. I'm gonna take some loans, and I'm gonna get an air gun, and you gonna make pallets. We is not taking advantage of that opportunity that the white folks gave you because they feel most threatening and redirecting that to build something with your partner. That ain't what y'all doing.
You know what? Sitting here listening to you over the last 2, 3 years, I keep up on things. I always look at what's in the news, and I have a personal collection of any information I find about Black women entrepreneurs, Black male entrepreneurs, and of course, consistent with what you're discussing and sharing with the the viewers and listeners, there's a lot of prominent, young, vibrant, beautiful Black women that's got these wonderful businesses. And every single time I take the information collected and, and I sit up there and I think, simple number, out of 25, one, maybe two, talk about their husband helped them do it, their significant other. All the rest of them is just by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've been doing this over the last 2 years, and because my research process is what it is, going back to like what you started with, it's a resurgence of a lot of young black women and uh, black women entrepreneurs, but it's the same thing. As opposed to them working for somebody, more of them is building the businesses, as opposed to how it used to be.
If you look, a lot of them got kicked out of corporate America the last 10 years. So they had no choice but to go to start a business. But you also taught that a man is a handicap.
I was just going to say that. That's exactly where I was going with that. Because again, I got a couple file folders with all of these what we would call back in the day clippings, but from the internet you copy and paste. So if I'm getting in trouble for it, who cares? Anyway, but I got a lot of that I've been collecting, and the one thing that stands out at the heart of what you're talking about and what you're sharing is that, because I'm always thinking about them, like, where, besides this one or two, these sisters ain't never said because of this reason. Now, a lot of them say, their children was also the inspiration. I think it's wonderful because they've also brought their children in and helped their children start a business. But I very rarely hear anything about the involvement, the connection, or a brother in the picture. And it's sad.
And that's why women pay more for property development and commercial property. Black women pay more than any other group. Because white men come in, I'm gonna do the construction, rip them off. You see what I'm saying? They pay more for space that they not even renting, because they ain't really measuring the space like that, and they don't have no man up on that.
Right.
So they pay a lot of more costs too. They pay higher. They pay higher interest rates on cars.
Because there's no guy there to say, hold on, wait, that don't sound right.
Right.
Let's bag that up. Let's bag that up and let's relook at that, because that don't sound right.
And because they're gonna purchase more off of, I like that. Right. Where the dude gonna stand on it like, nah, we ain't paying that price for that.
Because it costs.
He looking at the numbers. You know what I'm saying? So that's just a fact. I ain't make these numbers up. I kept a subscription to Black Enterprise. Right. I keep it. So this is just a fact of life, that they're paid, they cost more, right? And you have less abilities, right? When your resources is just one person.
Right.
All right. So yeah, it's trying to do that. And that's why you have a higher failure rate.
Right. Trying to do everything by yourself.
Because we start 25% of all new businesses.
Right.
Right.
And that's been that way for the last, I believe, 30 years.
About the last 30-some years. We've been. But now you gotta understand, we only operate 4% of the businesses.
Right.
So we start 25%, only operate 4%. So we failing at a high rate. We start most 80% of all Black businesses that start off credit cards. That's from a Black Enterprise report.
Okay,
They finance them off credit cards.
Wow, didn't know that.
Yeah, so we pay high interest rates too for financing our businesses, because what business would do is they're going to partially finance your business. They only this is a fact too. They only finance 40% of Black businesses. What you ask for? You ask for $100,000, they only give you $40,000. Why? Because you're gonna put your house up as collateral, right? So I made you put your house on collateral, but I only gave you 40% of your funding. So I put you in a position where your business is gonna struggle. This is how they wild Black businesses out of Black people out of their wealth too. So I got you. Your business is only 40% funded, and as an entrepreneur, you're gonna do whatever to chase that drain.
Right.
That's why so many Black entrepreneurs lose their houses.
Wow.
Because they finance their house for an underfunded business. Wow. This is a fact.
Wow.
Because you're gonna put that house up. This your dream.
Right.
So but they only gonna finance you 40% of what it takes to build that business. I didn't make this number up. Biden put it in this last report. Black businesses only receive 40% of the money they ask for.
Wow.
This comes from the government. That was
Right.
part of the program he issued for the black people. He said that in there. I read it on one of my YouTube pages. So, and that's why I did the video breaking down. If a business only receive 40% of the cost, I broke down. If I only receive 40% of the cost, then I have to get only a third of my inventory, right? Then I got to pay for shipping 3 times. I got to flip this product. That automatically hurt my business. You automatically triple my cost on shipping.
Right, as opposed to tripling profit.
But you gave me the money to underfinance me. Why would you even give a person the money and underfinance them, putting your own money at risk to take their properties?
Wow.
You undermining your own investment out the gate.
Right.
I know you need 100,000. I'm gonna give you 40,000. I set you up to fail.
Right. That's exactly what it sounds like.
So you got, and they say this. They give you 40% of what black entrepreneurs request for their business. When you request, you submit what your cost per product. I'm gonna spend 13,000 on inventory. This gonna be on marketing. This gonna be on shipping. So you to say, well, I'm only gonna give you 40%. I mean, you're gonna break down your inventory. If I say I'm purchasing my inventory based off the amount I buy, is the cheaper I get, you're gonna cut that price. So now you automatically cut into my profit margin.
Wow.
Right? Then I gotta buy less. You made it so I gotta ship more times. So all the way around, you cost me more and more money.
Right.
Why did you loan me the money?
Set you up for failure and put you in greater debt.
Because they know entrepreneurs gonna pursue every opportunity. They're gonna use their credit cards. They're gonna do everything possible to finance and make this business happen. They got the hassle.
And without realizing that the very same system that you pleaded with or requested to get this money is the exact same system that's going to make sure that they'll give you a portion of it, but it's already set up on an institutional level that happens and acts automatic on automatic pilot, that when you start making these strides, you're going to suddenly see bumps in the road that you shouldn't have had to anticipate.
I'm gonna give somebody a powerful example like this. They see me selling Dove body wash. Like, why they be asking me all the time, why you don't sell no Dove body wash? I'm paying for it to be sitting on the ship at the dock right now, and it's been there for 3 months.
Wow.
When it come, I won't make a profit. Because I didn't have the political clout to get it off the drain, off the ships when they start having that hold up issue.
Wow.
Be here finally next week, but it's been going on 3 months, 4 months.
Wow. Unreal.
So think about a person who had to borrow the money and is paying interest
at exorbitantly high rates.
Right. And one of my partners,
and compound interest.
One of my partners who I went in with it with, right? Who went in with it with me. He couldn't wait no longer. I had to pay him for him. I had to pay him out.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Because his 8,000, he had off credit card. So he paying 18% interest on this money sitting. Wow. That he can't even flip.
Wow.
See, there's so many ways to cripple us because we don't have that political and that economic clout, that collectiveness.
And most importantly, you don't have the support of, as we celebratingly refer to them as our women, as our significant and better half, our other half, because that's natural to us.
Well, like I say, even being that, you know, even like I said in my situation, like, you know, they'll bring up or they'll use your parole against you, but you done went to prison for protecting your family. But this is what manhood require. So if you will use that against me, then I can't protect you.
Valid point.
Because all the issues that come with me having to make that sacrifice, you're not willing to deal with. The ins and out of parole or whatever. You can't deal with that.
Right.
the economic, setback for being a felon and stuff like that. So if a black man does take that risk, the rest of the community not willing to deal with the consequences he has to suffer in order to protect his family,
Right.
in order to protect his woman.
Right. Because
So
we've been through so thoroughly and collectively thoroughly indoctrinated to be anti us and not even realize that it's so deep. It is so deeply ingrained in us.
that's why taking us, that's why them destroying our family is the reason why black people have that concept. It's every man for itself. You destroy that family base.
Right.
Don't nobody have that to fall back on. My mama moved back to stay with my grandparents plenty of times.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Your house, most grandparents' house revolving door. You fall, you go out, you
Mm-hmm.
try whatever you can,
Mm-hmm.
you fall off, boom, you can
Come back
fall back to
here
your
and
grandparents'
regroup.
house.
Yep.
Regroup.
Regroup and start over.
We don't have that no more.
No, we don't.
When if you fall, you grown, you don't have that.
No, you fall,
And your
you
mama
just
could be
fail.
living in Section 8. You can't even come and stay there.
Yeah. You can't even come spend the night.
You see what I'm saying?
Because
This
if
is
they find out you spent the night, they're
right.
gonna punish her for caring for and looking out for her child. Yeah, I
Right.
remember that.
Yes.
I remember those
So
times.
this is so you have no family base at
Right.
all. So this is why we got this mentality, every man for himself.
Right.
And that's why so you can trace that back to them incentivizing women to separate from men.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why that's so cold with that.
Wow.
That's why that's so cold with that, man.
Wow. Okay.
And we haven't recovered yet.
Yeah, and it ain't likely that's gonna happen anytime soon, which is usually one of my challenging questions to you when I have asked you on different occasions and different podcast interviews. Um, what do you think, in your honest opinion, what will be the first step, in your honest opinion, that can get some of us, if not necessarily all, because you got to start off with a small number. You got to start off with a workable number of people. What do you believe will be a good starting point?
I think one thing first, I think because I have a lot of argument with people about this, I'll say this. When they talk about we need more police and stuff like that, nobody speak about jobs. First you gotta think about how do you perceive your own people. Right?
Right.
So if you perceive your people or you think black people are naturally crooks, robbers, dope dealers, and that's just not who we is, armed robbers, you just think that's not who we is, then you never gonna unify with black people. Right?
Right.
But if you can really take a look at your people and believe that you are naturally good people, your nature is we're peaceful people, we can, what I'm saying? If you
Right.
believe that about your people, then I say the only thing you gotta do is study our history and learn who we really is.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And then understand that our current actions are a reaction to a condition that we don't control. So
Good point.
So I'm saying is if you want to change the reaction, right? Then
Right.
we got to change our action. So we got to take control of it. And as long as you can believe that, then we can work together. If you believe and you can look me up, especially if you're in Milwaukee,
Right.
you can look me up. You see me out here, we can get together. We can change numbers. We can start to work together, right? And and another thing, me and you starting, you're gonna find 5 businesses for me a month. I'm gonna
Right.
reach out to 5 different businesses.
Right.
Hopefully we can find a couple of husband and wife couples
Right.
to lay a good example.
Right.
But
Right.
if you're a
Right.
black business in Milwaukee, then you need to reach out to me, and we need to figure out how we can work together collectively. How we can pull our common interests because we need to have a right to just do business. We need to create that right. So yeah, we need to work, contact, sit down, work out how we can work together collectively, talk to these aldermen, get us some political strength, and be unified. You be able to pull if you have a problem with your business with the alderman. You need a group of other black businesses to come down there, to collectively come down there and speak up for you. That's what I'm on. I want us to speak collectively. I don't want you to have to stand alone. So yeah, that's what I want you to look me up for, because I don't want none of my people have to stand alone. We need to be a collective. We need to speak together. We need to fight for each other's right to exist, do business, and to prosper. So
As always, it's a pleasure speaking to you. It's always a pleasure listening to you speak. It's always a great pleasure listening to how you can break down these historical significant acts and actions and processes and put it all together in a way that it makes sense to anyone that's willing to listen with an open mind and with an inquisitive mind, not just hear you speak, but actually listen to what you have to say and ask themselves why. A lot of people saying it, but not quite the same way. But more importantly, how does this apply to me? Is there something I could do different? Is there something I need to look into myself and say, wait a minute, maybe I do some of them things for that reason and didn't even realize I was doing them or why I was doing them. So as I said, you you have a powerful voice, you have a powerful mind. And I just am grateful to have the pleasure to pick it and allow your listeners and your viewers to learn, to look, to listen, and to learn from that mind of yours. And on that, thank you very much. I appreciate the time that you've taken, and I look forward to our next podcast.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.